When sadness is persistent or too deep for us to handle alone, sometimes it's a good thing to seek help. In this lesson, we'll go over types of therapists, the basics of psychotherapy, introduction to case formulation, what is catharsis, a guide to self-help. Like with all the subjects, feel free to jump ahead if you already know the information. Here I would like to mention the sponsor of the video, the Happy app. With Happy, you can engage with an AI therapist at a fraction of the cost of traditional therapy. What makes Happy stand out? You have the opportunity to converse with an AI therapist who is an expert in every form of therapy, equipped with vast knowledge spanning the fields of psychology and counseling. What's even better? Your sessions are completely private and confidential, ensuring a safe space where you can express yourself freely without fear of judgment. Experience the convenience and expertise of Happy today. Now, one thing about this course is that it's one size fits all, which is good and bad. You'll get a detailed overview of what science has to say about the subject of happiness, but sometimes this info won't be applicable for everybody in every situation. For example, when trying to apply cognitive restructuring as we learnt in the first lesson, some of us will find it hard to see an irrational belief from a different angle. Sometimes your inability to feel joy is not a matter of thinking, but more of chemical imbalances in the brain. In these situations, it helps to talk to someone else. This is where therapy comes into play. Sometimes it just helps to get an experienced outside opinion. There are a few options when it comes to professional help, but usually the main two are psychologists and psychiatrists. Psychologists and psychiatrists are both mental health professionals, but they differ in their training and treatment approaches. Psychologists typically have a postgraduate qualification in psychology and focus on therapy and counseling using techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy to address emotional and psychological issues. However, they generally cannot prescribe medication. Psychiatrists are medical doctors specializing in mental health, capable of diagnosing and treating mental illnesses with a combination of medication and therapy, and they are the only mental health professionals who can prescribe medication. Psychotherapy, also known as talk therapy, helps you recognize and change negative thoughts and behaviors. There are different types of psychotherapy, like cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, interpersonal therapy, IPT, and mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, MBCT. It can assist you in managing stress, solving problems, boosting self-esteem, and improving your mood. A psychologist, counselor, or social worker typically provides psychotherapy. To benefit, you need to be open to sharing your feelings and experiences. A course of psychotherapy usually involves 8 to 16 sessions, each lasting 45 to 60 minutes, but therapy can also last several years for some people. While psychotherapy can be helpful, there might be challenges. These can include finding the right therapist, feeling uncomfortable or emotional during sessions, and keeping up with homework. Another downside of therapy is that it is often very expensive and unattainable for many of us. Therapists can charge hundreds of dollars per session. This is one of the main reasons why our sponsor, Happy, exists. We are living in a brave new world, and with the benefit of technology, instead of paying a psychologist or counselor around $200 per session, you can pay just a few dollars. What's the catch? Well, the therapists on Happy are interactive AI, which is good and bad. If you're looking for that personal touch, maybe AI therapy is not for you, but if you need to talk to someone who is an expert on every form of therapy and has knowledge of the entire field of psychology and medicine at its metaphorical fingertips, AI therapy may be right for you. It's private and confidential, and you rest assured you will never be judged for anything you say. To take advantage of this service, click the link below in the description. Now, I mentioned psychotherapy, and although it can sometimes be a quick fix, often it is not. But one good thing is that a good therapist will usually take a more holistic approach, creating what's called a case formulation. A case formulation is like a toolkit that therapists use to understand what's going on with someone and covers when the problem started, what keeps it going, and what predisposing or protective factors are in play. When you see a therapist jotting down notes during your session, they might be working on a case formulation. This involves several steps. First, they list the problems you're currently facing. Then, they consider aspects of your background that might have predisposed you to these issues. Next, they identify recent events or triggers that could have exacerbated the problems, known as precipitating factors. They also look at perpetuating factors, which are habits or ongoing situations that keep the problems going. Lastly, they assess protective factors, which include your strengths and support systems that can aid in your recovery. This comprehensive understanding helps therapists determine the best ways to assist you. Next, I want to introduce you to a concept called catharsis. An example of catharsis is having a good cry after an altercation, screaming at the top of your lungs in the forest, or punching a pillow. Catharsis in therapy refers to the process of expressing and releasing pent-up emotions, often in a safe and supportive therapeutic environment. It involves verbalizing or experiencing intense feelings such as sadness, anger, or fear that have been suppressed or ignored. Catharsis can help clients gain insight into their emotions, process traumatic experiences, and alleviate psychological distress. By allowing emotions to be acknowledged and expressed, catharsis can promote emotional healing, reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression, and facilitate personal growth and self-awareness. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a therapist who is able to give you a different perspective or help you see another side of the issue. Maybe you don't have access to a therapist or don't have the resources. Here is an exercise you can do by yourself or with a close friend, which might help. It's called the two-chair technique, also known as the Gestalt two-chair experiment, and is a therapeutic intervention commonly used in counseling and psychotherapy. Set up 2 chairs. Sit in one chair and either imagine a therapist or have a good friend sit in the other. We'll start with the solo exercise. This is going to take some imagination. Have you got your list of irrational or unhealthy beliefs with you? Great, we're going to need it. While sitting as the patient, explain your issues or unhealthy thoughts to the imaginary therapist in the other chair. Imagine this therapist is loving and non-judgmental. They are very logical in their thinking. After you've explained your thought process, I want you to get up and sit in the other chair. This is your therapist chair, and you are acting the part of the therapist. Now, what would they say to the patient version of yourself about their issues? What other way would a loving, caring, wise, and helpful therapist reshape the way you are thinking? Would they say you're being too harsh on yourself? Would they say you're having black and white thinking, catastrophizing the situation? Go back to our list of common irrational thinking patterns. Does any of your thinking fall into any of these? If you have someone close to help out, try alternative the therapist role to help each other see other perspectives. Go over each other's thinking from the lens of what you learnt in this course and try to correct each other's distorted thinking patterns where you can. Doing this will help you to see a problematic way of thinking from another perspective. So that's all for this subject. In our next subject, we've saved the best for last. We will tackle one of the best solutions for reaching new levels of lasting, lifelong happiness. Finally, although this course is free for you, it was not free to get it to you. If I have helped you, all I ask is to think about supporting me with a small donation to my Patreon account or grabbing my Happiness Handbook on Amazon. The links are in the description. Your help allows me to continue creating these courses, reaching others, and spreading the joy in every language.